All right, so I didn't get picked for a track A slot, so I brought a Node talk to a track B slot for JSConf, even though NodeConf is like, what, 2 days from now, 3 days from now? But whatever, this is cool stuff, I promise. So my proposed talk for JSConf that got rejected was whatever cool thing I'm working on at the time. And I guess that was too vague, or I don't know. And so something I've been playing with for the last, I don't know, week is making desktop apps in Node. Who thinks it would be really cool to make native desktop apps in JavaScript? Yeah? But what do you use for UI? HTML? GTK? Qt? I don't know. Well, why not use all of them? So let's talk about the progression of JavaScript. You know, when JavaScript was first made and Brendan Eich was an intern, it was to add some, was he intern or employee? I don't even remember, sorry. But when Brendan Eich was inventing the language, it was for adding interactivity to web pages so they could compete with Internet Explorer. And so we have like mouse over image swaps, form validation. Eventually this awesome thing called DHTML came out. I even started my own company like back in 2000 making DHTML games. Clearly that company died. But if you go to Wayback Machine and go to my website, you can see a quote in there where I said, the future is HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And that was 10, 11 years ago. So that's pretty good, right? And then we had the ads, all JavaScript-powered ads. They pop up over your content, or you hover over a link accidentally and it's an ad. Crazy stuff. And then we have Ajax. We're like, hey, we don't need to make round trips. And so we started making actual applications in the web. HTML was not made for applications. HTML was made for linkable documents. And it shows in CSS 1 and 2, vertical and horizontal are treated very differently because you're constrained to a window, but you flow vertically, and so they act weird. In an application, you kind of treat them symmetrically, so it doesn't work well. So we've worked around that, and we got CSS 3 now, which helps a ton. And then WebSockets came out, and we can do really low latency like games, and you have WebGL, and JavaScript on the front end is a really, really powerful platform. That's why this conference is so awesome. And then a year or two ago, server-side JavaScript started taking off. And as a lot of you probably know, I work a lot on Node. And then I don't know what's after that. But something that I've been working on is making actual native apps written in JavaScript. And so I'm just going to show you guys a few of the things I've been experimenting with, hopefully do some live coding that hopefully doesn't crash my laptop. And I'm sure we're running out of time at that point. So, oh, I should have been doing this. All right. So first, I used to do GTK programming. I admit it. It's kind of a cool platform. The object model is kind of weird, but I did it from Python. So it's okay. I didn't have to deal with the C. So Tim Smart, not me, made static bindings to GTK. And it's on GitHub. You can look at it. And with that, you can go, here, let me go to that right now. I just downloaded it, and I believe it's an NPM. So let's go to test. That is not big enough, is it? No, how about that? Is that good? More? Well, I need some room. I'll try one more. How's that? Monster sized. So if you've done GTK before, this should look familiar. So we got HBoxes, windows, entries, which is a text field. We've got progress bars. And he's going to add some stuff to these and render it to the screen. So this is basically GTK C code, but written in JavaScript. And this is a Node program. So you can do Node, kitchen sink JS. And there's a native app. It looks weird, but if we do this, crazy window manager. There you go. So you got a button, and you click it, and the callbacks can see it. It says, I heart GTK. It's got a text field, change events. So that's kind of cool, right? This isn't HTML, but it is JavaScript. Really neat, right? But it's static bindings, which is good and bad. So it's very fast, but it has to be bound manually. So you either have to write a whole lot of code or start noticing patterns and generate a whole lot of code. But either way, it's a lot of work. I mean, the Python guy's been doing it for years, but it's still a lot of work. So GNOME 3 has this cool thing that they've released now called GIR, G-Object Introspection Repository, I believe. And basically what it is all the source code is forced to have annotations saying this is the type and this is the return value and all this cool stuff. And then this other program comes in after the fact and takes that source code and creates these massive XML files. And then another program takes those XML files and generates these typelib files. But all that's done for you. And then there's this library called GI repository. And what it'll do is it'll take these typelib files and using FFI, you can call anything in the Node ecosystem and you only have to bind to Node GIR. This isn't done yet. If you go to my repo there, it's pretty much just a README. So I'm looking for help on this. But I think it would be really cool if Node had first-class bindings for this. There's already 2 JavaScript bindings. One is using SpiderMonkey and one is using JavaScript core from WebKit. And the SpiderMonkey one is actually what runs the window manager in GNOME Shell in GNOME 3. So the new GNOME actually has a JavaScript-powered window manager. And I think that's really cool. So while I don't have a working GNOME one yet, a Node one yet, what did I call that thing? So I work at Palm, so my sample app is always a mythical IDE. So this is a C.js app. I implement my own require, so it looks more like a Node app. But you import GTK, make a window. This looks a lot like the other one, but this is all dynamic. There's no static bindings to GTK anywhere. And then, that's not Node. I run that, and hopefully this works. And so this is, so I've got tabs, I've got a GTK source view here, text editor. I've got a tree view over here. It's not fully implemented, but as you see, it's a desktop app. I could maybe finish this out and make an IDE that's optimized for my mobile system at work, and it'd all be JavaScript, which would be really cool. Now the problem with all of this is I was working on this for the demo, and I got stuck for about a day because my notebook, which is the tab view in GTK, wasn't displaying. And I don't even know why. Maybe I had the wrong version compiled. I was getting seg faults all the time. And I just couldn't see it. And I said, I wish I had WebKit dev tools. You guys have heard about that, right? Because if something doesn't show there, you just inspect it, look at the CSS. Oh, it's got a width of 0. That's why it's invisible. No, in GTK, it's all opaque. If someone knows a way to inspect that, that'd be great. As far as I know, it doesn't exist. And while it's really fast and it's cool, you get access to all the built-in native stuff, it's also very painful for a web developer. So I started another project. And this is actually my first Node extension written in C. I am not a C coder, but it's not too much. And right now, it just binds to WebKit GTK, so it only runs in Linux. But basically, a Node process pops up a window that's a web view and talks to it. Right now, it talks to it over WebSockets, but hopefully I want to have better integration where you can even share context and pass references around. But basically, you can make HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript apps that run as desktop apps. Kind of like, you guys have heard of Titanium, and there's these other ones. There's the single, what are they called, single site browsers. And there's a lot of things for this. But I work on Node a lot, so I want this in Node. I want WebKit bindings for Node. I think that would be really cool. And so, what are you going to use for a GUI toolkit when you're making a desktop app? You can use whatever you want. I work at Palm, so I'm going to use Enyo. There's going to be a talk about that later. And I'm making a text editor, so I use the ACE component that the Ajax org guys made, and it's a really good editor. So start up this Node app, and this is a WebKit window, and this is looking at my hard drive. Node is doing all the file access. It's talking over WebSockets to the WebKit. So let's go meta and look at my own code. So NUID, app.js. So there's that. Is that big enough? I hope. So I pull in a whole bunch. This is the Node server that runs the back end. And TopCube is the library I wrote. And so you give TopCube an HTTP response handler, and it spawns a private HTTP server, spawns the WebKit, connects the two together, and you're good to go. And it pops up a window. And I'm using socket.io for my communication, so it's basically just bidirectional RPC. So here's the read dir command for reading this left column. Whole bunch of ugly node code, but hey, async is cool. It's really fast. And then easier one to read a file, I just use the read file. And that's it. That's the node side. So let's go to the front end. So there's Ace, there's Enyo, there's Socket.io. So here's my index.html. So I load Enyo, create the app. There will be a fuller demo of Enyo later on, but basically you got these kinds, which are like classes. And so I got a flexbox here with a file listing in it, and a flex there with a kind in it. They were flexes because there were toolbars under them. And there's just some methods, and so it's object-oriented JavaScript. And I don't know, I think this is really fun. I like writing JavaScript. It's a language I know well. I do it for my job all day, and sometimes some of my tasks are rather, repetitive. And when I'm working on a mobile device, I want to edit source code on my desktop so that I have version control, but I have to push it to the mobile device to test it. And sometimes I want to run these special commands to clear the cache or restart the app or just utilities. And it'd be really great if there was a unified tool for this. So I just started writing one. And I said I really need a graphical interface for this. So this is my experiment. And you guys get a short 20-minute talk about it, or 15-minute looks like. So I'm looking for help from the community. I've talked to a few people. I'm going to get a show of hands. Who would prefer native bindings to GTK and whatever the desktop has, and who would prefer HTML? So let's do native. Who would love native bindings with JavaScript? A few? Clearly this is a bunch of web developers. Who would like HTML5? All right. Well, I'm working on both in my free time. This is nothing Palm official, but hopefully these projects can take off. So thank you for your time.